Hello and welcome to the Riverfront Reds Show, where this week Skylar and I will spend the next hour talking about snow. And where better to go for that than to bring on our special guest this week. He is on the View from Bernie Chalet, top notch when it comes to naming of a podcast. It's a Milwaukee Brewers podcast. Hyatt Lazear, and see, he should have never said Lazear. Hyatt Lazear, how are you doing today, buddy?
Wonderful, Seth. Thanks for the invite. Pleasure to be on here with you too.
Yeah, we had a good 12 plus inches of snow Sunday into Monday, and it's still here. And, in central Ohio, where Skylar and I reside, normally the snow melts 2 or 3 days after it falls. So we're not quite used to this right now.
Well, I've been born and raised and lived most of my life in Wisconsin, so I can relate to the accumulation. Trust me, you'll get through it. And heck, if you got kids, they love sledding, so you might as well get used to that.
Absolutely. We've been through that. We had several cups of hot chocolate the other day for some of their friends. So I think my Father of the Year nomination should be coming pretty shortly, even though we're only in January. So we're good to go there. Well, hey, I want to introduce this as kind of a Know Your Foe segment, get to know you. And as far as I'm concerned, I spoke to you a little bit before we came on the air. The Brewers are what the Reds should aspire to be. And that is, not the largest market, sure. But if you put good product on the field, you're going to get fan support, which could lead to maybe a little more spending. Again, I was saying before we went on, I think the Brewers in the NL Central are the only team that if I have anything I don't like about them, it's just that I am jealous or envious of the success. So certainly I know you're looking for that World Series title, but tell us a little bit about the Brewers' kind of success these last many years and how that's been received and how exciting it's been.
Honestly, especially last year, we got to experience something that is completely out of a small market team's realm, and that is anxiety-free baseball. The Brewers had win streaks of 8, 12, and 14 last year. And it got to the point where you're just sitting there and it's like, okay, how are they going to come back and win this one? And it's always fun. It's always entertaining. And frankly, it's pretty amazing how they've done it. They've looked at what everybody else does and no, they can't do it that way. They know that they have to build their own pitching, which they have absolutely dominated with. I mean, the Brewers win in 3 different facets of the game. It's not hitting bombs like the big markets teams do. It's not spending a ton on pitching like the big markets do. They win through defense, they win through base running, and they win through bullpen. You don't need a starter to go 6-7 innings like these other teams because the Brewers have had a shutdown bullpen since Josh Hader came up in 2018. We're looking at 8-9 years of really, really solid bullpen play, and they've shifted. You would never think that Caleb Durbin or Sal Frelick would be players on winning baseball teams, but they do the things that the Brewers know that they can win with, and that is they play very good defense, especially Sal. Sal's a Gold Glover, and they are phenomenal at base running and have been for the past 3-4 seasons. And that's why you're seeing the results that you see.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I was mentioning how the other teams in the Central, I could find reasons not to like them. Certainly the Cardinals, the Reds and the Cardinals had a big fight in 2010. We had to put up with Walt Jocketty bringing in all his former players. Reds and the Pirates had some historical battles when Clint Hurdle was their manager, although I think that went around pretty well throughout the division. And then the Cubs. I mean, they're the Cubs. So I know you Brewers fans aren't the biggest fans of the Cubs. I will tell you, my wife, we got married in 2004, didn't have our first son until 2010. My wife is a sports fan, and she had an irrational disdain for Ryan Braun, like way before he got in trouble with the PED. So I was like, oh my goodness, you were right about him.
I mean, he started his own T-shirt company that was a ripoff of Ed Hardy. I don't blame her for that whatsoever.
Right. So for that, she was right. The one guy for me is Christian Yelich. The Reds had been rumored to be in talks with the Marlins, maybe on a trade before your Brewers pulled that trigger. And I know he hasn't maybe had the best years the last couple of years, but but he certainly won an MVP, I believe, and he's just been so good and so fun to watch over the years.
Oh,
So
yeah.
your thoughts, Skylar, your thoughts about the Brewers over this time? A little envy, maybe?
Very envious in the ability to develop these guys out of basically nowhere. You know, every year we would see players leave the Brewers, and we're like, thank God Willie Adames is out of the division because he was our Reds killer. We would see plenty of guys come through like that. Thames was another one that was just a Reds killer. And but it never had, like, you guys never fall off the cliff. You guys never have really a downturn. And the question that I have for you is, how do Brewers fans, how do you guys handle the trading of stars, knowing that you're definitely getting like a king's ransom in return, obviously with Freddie Peralta being the latest of that model?
Of that model, I would say Freddie is the best return that we have gotten there. And, salary is why, and contribution is why. The Brewers know what they're looking for when they trade. They're looking for MLB ready guys that are generally right around the top 100. We're not going for the Leo DeVries out there. We know that we're not going to pull the we know we're not going to pull Connor Griffin off of a good team,
Yeah.
But that's kind of how the Brewers do it. And if you look at the projected 26 guys that are going to be out there come opening day, you're looking at 6 or 7 homegrown guys, and then the vast majority, like 10 or 11, are acquired through trade. The Brewers are very happy to pay players for their good years. They paid Freddie Peralta for his good years. They were happy to pay Corbin Burns for his good years. They were happy to pay Josh Hader. And they are very much in the Branch Rickey mode of, it's better to trade a guy a year too early than a year too late. So they like to maximize their value. And that's why you're going to be thankful that William Contreras next year is no longer in the division. And then a couple years after that, Bryce Terang no longer in the division. When a Brewer is approaching his last year in arbitration, that's real, or his last year before free agency, that's generally where you see the Brewers move on them.
Yeah, and the funny thing there is the Reds have a guy in Tyler Stevenson. We have a question later in our viewer mail segment that this is his last year of arbitration. They didn't come to an agreement, and I know his camp's looking for a longer-term deal. We'll see what happens there. I mean, shoot, you guys, the Reds came in and took Derek Johnson from you. You didn't miss a beat. The Cubs came and took your manager, Craig Counsell. You're arguably better off. He mentioned Willie Adames and Freddie Peralta, the latest guy. Wanted to see. You said you're a fantasy baseball guy. What about? Have you been to many other ballparks? Have you traveled around much?
Not as, of course, not as much as I like, and everybody says that. About almost 20 years ago, I worked for the Texas Rangers.
Okay.
So I was able to see a couple ballparks that way. I saw Houston. I lived in San Francisco for a little bit, so that's my favorite park. Everybody raves.
That's mine too. Absolutely.
Everybody raves about PNC or Camden. San Francisco has the best park.
Yeah, they do. They do. I will tell you, I was at Miller Park at the time back in 2016. I sat middle level, kind of up a little bit down the left field line, down the third base line, and then I sat behind the dugout on first base. I'll tell you, the fact that you have the roof that'll close where you are in Milwaukee and in Wisconsin. I mean, unlike Minneapolis, where they didn't do that with the Twins, I don't know how they do that. That's insane. I have looked at going to see Target Field a few times, and the Reds have played up there in April or very early May. And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna wait till we play them later in the year. Couldn't do it.
Pass.
So the only thing, Miller Park, what's it called now? Is it team? What is it called?
American Family Field.
Okay, American Family Field. Yeah. So to me, it just felt a little cavernous, but the hospitality was great. The knowledgeable baseball fans I sat around were awesome. The food choices were good. Of course, I stayed in downtown Milwaukee, so we had a few local pubs to go get some good food. There was some. I think I had a great brat with mac and cheese on top of it, just
Oh yeah.
on a pretzel bun. Yes, very good. No, I really enjoyed the ballpark and really enjoyed our time there. Actually, I caught a ball, a throw up from Brandon Phillips.
Nice.
It was a third out, and a Brewers fan actually yelled BP or Brandon or something, and he looked up, and I was the one in a red shirt, and he threw it right at me, and boy, it stung a little, but it was really cool. The sausage.
Well, it sounds like you haven't figured out the secret of going to other stadiums, and that is always sit in whatever level is called the club level. You'll get the best food.
Yeah.
You'll get the most variety of drink options, and most places have air conditioning there.
That's
So
true.
if you're traveling in July, one of our frequent guests went to Colorado actually, and he said their club level is amazing. So that's the secret, guys. Always choose the club level, wherever you're going.
I kind of like being with the regular people, Hyatt. I don't know. Let's look at this coming year. Now, everything you said about what the Brewers do, right? It's actually what the Reds said they want to try to do. They've said that now for a few years.
Yeah.
So they've kind of made inroads toward that. You mentioned pitching. They've got homegrown starting pitching. They extended Hunter Green through arbitration, so they've got that done. But they've got all these other guys that they haven't paid up for yet. They added to their bullpen this offseason in a pretty cost-friendly way, I would say. That's one area you can attack it. Certainly, I think they've made improvements, but their offense is still lacking. So that's where it is. Like, teams want to be the Rays, teams want to be like the Brewers, and it's easy to say that, but I guess follow through or having such a good front office that can really track down those guys to bring in. That's the key, isn't it?
It's part of the thing is that the Brewers do is while they love their prospects, they're not in love with their prospects.
We call those prospect huggers.
Yeah. Or hoarders, really.
Yes.
They understand that their guys are going to have limitations. It's why you saw they went for Joey Ortiz versus an outfielder. It's why you saw them go for Caleb Durbin versus someone with more power. They know what they're looking for, and they know how to build their team. One of the things I noticed about their Reds, about 12 or 13 guys on your 26-man roster are homegrown, especially the pitching staff. And Ellie is a unicorn too. That guy is just super fun to watch. But you guys definitely put a lot of trust and capital into your homegrowns. I'm looking at Spencer Steer, Noel Marte. One of the things over the years I've come up with a philosophy is that prospects are just people that aren't dead yet. And so let me explain that. Jesus Made is a phenomenal prospect. Luis Pena for the Brewers, phenomenal prospect. Both those guys, both consensus top 25 guys, both guys that are incredibly exciting. They have scored 0 runs for the Brewers. They have hit 0 homers for the Brewers. Up until last year, Jacob Mizorowski, phenomenal prospect, but again, 0 strikeouts for the Brewers. The fact is that the Brewers are very good at knowing when to fall in love with a guy and when to let somebody develop, but also when not to. As an example, they brought in Brandon Lockridge at the end of the year to provide some speed and defense, and they gave up their guy that signed in the Made and Pena class at the highest bonus. Why? Because they saw that he is not going to develop. And you look at it now, and he's like 7th in San Diego's system as their 7th best prospect. But the Brewers look at him, and it's like, no, he doesn't have what we need. He doesn't have the bat-to-ball skills. So you look at the Reds roster and where they're falling short. Like, Marte, not exactly looking to have a big year, and he's not projected for a big one. Even though I loved him coming up, because heck, I made a lot of money off his baseball cards when he was coming through. But the fact is that the Brewers know what they want to bring up, and it seems like the Reds are just very happy to bring up their guys and invest and let their guys go. Now, should they extend guys that really are good? Like, I mean, I'm not sure why they don't have a long-term deal with Lodolo. I love that guy. I
Yeah.
think he's going, while he has had some injury issues, he has stuff that's right up there with Green. So,
Yeah.
but trying to chase a long-term deal, there's a lot of risk in pitching, but they've already tried to sign Ellie to a long-term deal, and he pretty much said nah. And it's like, well, who do you want to invest in then? And there's really not much else that you want to look at and say, do I really want to spend more money on a catcher who's already 29? Do I really want to put money into a guy who's missed already like a year and a half, like Matt McClain? It's a matter of investing where you think you can. But if I'm Cincinnati, it's like, okay, you know what? It's time to back up that Brinks truck for Ellie, and probably the same for Lodolo, and make sure they know they are cornerstones along with Hunter Green.
Yeah, and Skylar, I would point this to you, Skylar. The problem probably, now look, we could disagree with Hyatt on Marte. We're pretty high on Marte right now. The fact though is the 23 and 24 trade deadlines, and even 25 a little bit, they showed a reluctance to trade prospects, especially when they've had so many shortstops in the system that they could have afforded to move on from a few of those guys, knowing that Ellie's there for the foreseeable future. Your thoughts, Skylar, on what Hyatt thinks there, and then also like that kind of is a difference too, is they didn't go all in 23 when they had a chance. They made small trades here this past year.
I agree with Hyatt in the sense of that's why the Brewers are successful. They know who they're trying to bring up. They have a key. They have a vision of who they're trying to bring up. If you don't fit that mold, there's not a spot for you. I mean, how many times have we seen them bring guys up because they were top prospects, held on to them probably way longer than they should have, and either ended up DFAing them or waiving them or whatever it is. I mean, Nick Senzel's a great example of that, who, boy, everyone held on to, and then just didn't amount to anything. I mean, with the Reds always do that. If they have a top prospect, if you get marked as a top prospect in the Red system, it's pretty much a guaranteed ticket that you're going to see some MLB innings or MLB at-bats, because they don't like to trade from the top of the well, even if the top of the well isn't a position that they need, like shortstop. I've had it up, and it might have changed since the new rankings came out, but like 6 of their top 10 are either third base or shortstop that they don't need.
Well, and certainly you can move shortstops around. That's usually your best athlete. Hyatt, if you're still there, I saw today that MLB Network is releasing their top shortstops, and Ellie played all 162 last year, but post mid-July, really, he was playing on a bad quad, and his numbers just fell through the floor. Certainly, he was ranked as the 9th best. But I saw a video today that reminded me. Actually, I was like, "Oh, we're talking to Hyatt tonight." Do you recall the game when Ellie stole second, third, and home on 2 pitches?
I was absolutely, and this is why I say he's a unicorn.
Yes.
He is, and you don't find 6'5", 6'6" guys. He's up there, right? That have that kind of speed that can just absolutely turn an inning into an absolute masterpiece. Yes, I remember that very fondly. And I'll tell you, outside of the Cubs and Cards, I really don't hate any teams. I mean, not even the Dodgers. But, Ellie is just absolutely incredible to watch. Throughout my time, there have been guys that I pay money to go see individual players. You're talking your Bonses, your Otanis, your Pujols, and Ellie is a show and a half.
Yeah.
He is the guy you go when he's in town. That's the guy you go pay to see.
Yeah, the entirety of 2024 and the first half of 2025, even if he didn't get a hit that night, he was going to do something to excite you as a fan. And certainly we could tell as Reds fans, I mean, he had a stretch of like 300 at bats where he only hit one home run. Something was wrong, and they admitted later that it was a quad injury. Well, Hyatt, I guess if you have a few more minutes to stay with us, we're going to talk some Reds news. And I
Sure.
would like to get your opinion too. So it came out this week. Actually, let me ask you this. Does your ownership or management at the Brewers, do they ever put feelers out there to let fans know why they're not spending money?
I mean, with the Brewers, it's just an assumption.
Yeah.
You know, there's no real, it's like, okay, how are we going to improve? I mean, they always say, oh, hey, we've got the budget to do this. The real shocker was when they extended the qualifying offer to Brandon Woodruff this past year. Had no idea that they were going to do that. And it was even more of a shocker when he took it.
Yeah.
So
Nick Martinez with the Reds, same thing.
yeah. And, it's really, it's the same thing at the beginning of every offseason. Oh, we're happy where we are budget wise. We're not really looking to expand that. And we want to make sure we have payroll flexibility for when the end of July comes and they trade for their next hurt reliever. So
those are some triggering words right there. Payroll flexibility. No, the Reds put a feeler out through a writer last spring to basically let the fans know that if they come to the games in April and May, maybe they could make a move at the trade deadline. That was literally in an article. And then,
wow,
the most recent one is this, and that's what we're moving on to, this news this week that Skylar covered on his show on Sunday. But they're in on Eugenio Suarez. They're somewhat interested in bringing Austin Hayes back, but they're waiting to see how their TV deal pans out, and they're not going to make a move before that happens. And that was another one of those, like, just say you're not willing to spend the money type situations.
Well, I mean, Brewers are in the same boat, though. You guys were also affected by the Main Street bankruptcy, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you think about that. That's 35 to 50 million of revenue that the team no longer has. So every business has a budget. Every single organization has parameters they want to stay in. They're not going, if they don't have, one of the things that teams even like the Rangers have is certainty in their revenue for the upcoming year, because they do have a local TV deal. With the Reds, the Brewers, and the other 7 teams that lost out on Main Street, that's not the case. So, yeah, it would be nice if the team spend, but they've got a pretty good excuse to not spend.
Yeah. Well, and they also, someone was saying the other night, I think that if they go with the Major League Baseball package, as far as like having MLB produce everything and all that, the shortfall would be about $20 million. Like, the difference between whatever deal they had. And they were already on like a short shrift deal anyway when Bally's went up in flames and FanDuel came through. So anyway, Suarez, though, let's talk about him. Let's assume that maybe the Reds get a TV deal figured out and they decide to look into it. Skylar, you were hosting your live show the other night, and in the chat, it was actually a really good conversation. And the guy we really respect and love, Mr. Juan, he's a longtime fan of the Riverfront. He actually disagreed with me. I say if they can get Suarez on a 2 or 3 year deal, 2 would be great. With his age, I say they should go on in because they just don't have a power bat. Mr. Juan said he did not agree, and it's okay. We don't have to always agree. I guess I'd like to have the two of your thoughts. Hyatt, you're from the outside looking in. They don't have a power bat. The only guy that hit 20, I think, Elliott up with 24 or 25 home runs. They just don't have it right now. He's the only guy that profiles out to 30 home runs really this coming year. Your thought first, Skylar. What are you thinking about Suarez at this moment?
Well, before the Suarez piece, to me, it's mind-boggling that, as Hyatt said, there are about 9 teams in on that local market kind of crash out. Only the Reds openly admit we can't make moves until that is resolved. No other team is putting that out there. So that's something that rubs me a little bit the wrong way. But as far as Eugenio Suarez, I understand the concerns around, age, but I would love Eugenio Suarez because you know what you're getting from him. He spent 7 years with your organization, hitting nearly 50 home runs every year. And B, though he's getting up there in age, you're not asking him to go out there and play third. You're not asking him to play the field at all. You're basically telling him you're going to be our DH. That's what you're here to do. A little bit easier on your body, not doing fielding drills or anything like that. But on the off chance that you need to, the Reds are kind of thin at third base right now. I mean, Sal Stewart played it in the minor leagues, but he doesn't really have the arm to play third base. I would say the same with McLean. I would say the same with Steer. So if something goes down with Austin or Ke'Bryan Hayes, you could have Eugenio Suarez play third base for you.
Yeah, and Hyatt, he hit 49 home runs. Suarez did with 2 teams last year with much bigger ballparks than he would play in Cincinnati. Your thought? I know you mentioned not spending the money on those guys as they get older. What are your thoughts on if the Reds were able to do that, or should the Reds do that?
Have you guys looked at Eugenio's second half numbers last year? I mean, I think after the trade, he was not great.
Okay.
And pardon me, I'm literally like bringing it up here. Last year's splits between first half and second half. Yeah. Like he had a pretty scorching hot July, and then after, like, he was up to, let's see, 10 31 30. He was at 36 bombs at the trading deadline, and then after he got traded, he hit 6 and 7. His batting average was below 200. Now, of course, that can always be attributed to the fact that he was traded to, I believe, Seattle, was it, last year?
That's right.
Yeah. But man, he had a really, really rough run there. If you put him at DH, fine. He would absolutely he's there to rake, and the bandbox you guys got there is absolutely a great place for him to rake, but expecting anything else from him outside of the good bat, like, as you guys said, you guys have all these shortstops that you absolutely love coming up. If they're athletic enough to play shortstop, they're athletic enough to play third.
Right.
Just find the one that can actually hit major league pitching, and you're fine. I'm not sure if that is Steer, because he's like more of a second baseman, but man, yeah, for me, if you're gonna spend the money on Eugenio Suarez, you're spending the money on the bat, and any other expectation is asking too much of him.
Well, my thing too is they were all in on trying to get Kyle Schwarber, who is from up the road from Cincinnati, and the problem for us fans is it's just like, oh, you were in on him because of where he's from. That felt kind of weird. But then, so this would not cost nearly as much in total. So if they had the outlay ready for Schwarber, should he have taken it, then part of me would like to see it happen. I would be all in on a trade as well. Like, they need a power bat. They need somebody in the middle of that lineup to help protect Ellie, and they just don't have it right now. So that's kind of where I am right now. Hey, before we get to our viewer mail segment, I want to ask you, Hyatt, you mentioned, liking Ellie. Has there been anybody over the years with the Reds that you've been fond of prior to Ellie? as a fan of another team?
Um, I grew up in the Larkin era.
Okay.
Absolutely, I liked watching him play. And of course, who wasn't a fan of Griffey when he
Sure.
was
Yeah.
through? But you guys have had a pretty. It's been a pretty big dearth of superstars between when Griffey left. Although I was always a Sean Casey guy. He
Yeah.
was absolutely, yeah, and the mayor was always a blast to listen to. And his interactions with Greinke are always the best. Those two just absolutely were wonderful to hear go back and forth. Like they should have their own podcast. But yeah, Sean Casey I was always a big fan. And it always seems like I'm a baseball card collector as well as, a fan. And it always seemed like every single time that I would get I would open up a pack, it would either be and I would get lucky, it would be like a Voto autograph or a Sean Casey autograph. So
You can send your Votto autographs my way. I'm a huge Votto guy. So
I love Votto. Loved Votto.
yeah. No, it's there's a story that goes that I named my son after Joey Votto, and my wife disputes it to this day, but his name is Joey. So very funny story there. She's 7-8 months pregnant on the couch during his MVP year, and he hits a 3-run homer, and I say, how about Joey for a name? And she says, oh, I like it. And then months later, when we have the baby and a couple guys come over with their wives to hang out and check out the baby and all that, and one of them goes, I can't believe she let you name him after Joey Votto. And she says, no, I didn't.
Oh, man.
Hey, speaking of Joey Votto.
Yeah, big news for Joey today. He's going to be part of NBC's coverage of baseball. My hope is he'll be in the booth for their Sunday night package. But he did some great things when he was hurt his last full season with the Reds. And just was just expert in the booth. In fact, Larkin's up there for home games, and Joey, in my opinion, ran circles around Larkin and as far as his color analysis. It was really fun to watch.
I mean, Joey may be Canadian, but he's got a personality. So, like, absolutely enjoyable to listen to. So,
absolutely, you're right about that. I'm going to pause for a quick break here, and then we'll get into viewer mail. All right, we've got some actual letters from actual viewers. That joke was a lot better when it was a ripoff of David Letterman, and we weren't even on video, but we are on video now, Hyatt. So we do have viewer mail coming up, and one of our longtime listeners, watchers, viewers, Kyle Kapler, always seems to swoop in first. He says, who gets the most starts at first base? Spencer Steer, Sal Stewart, or the field? Skylar, I'll let you take that one first.
To me, I think it's Spencer Steer because he was a Gold Glove finalist last year, and he really only played first base half the year. I think he hits better when he's playing first base. I think he is just a better player at first base, but I can see why the Reds might go for Sal Stewart, who's just he's a lightning rod of a player and an individual. Small sample size last year, sure, but with all the offseason attention he's getting, he dropped like 25 pounds. It's going to be a good competition to watch come spring training.
Yeah, so Steer, came up as an infielder. Hyatt, you're right. He profiled as a second baseman, although he played a lot of third base when he first came up and through the minors. Last year, he was ticketed to play first and left, and maybe help out a little bit in the infield around like second and third. But he came into the season with an injury, and he really couldn't throw. It was a shoulder injury, and he ended up having to play first base almost the whole year, and it was kind of a drain, both with his versatility, because the Reds are among many teams that have always been looking for their Ben Zobrist, and he is somewhat malleable that he can play at different spots. I would say I would almost profile Stewart as a DH if they don't go get another one. So I would think you're probably right. I think it's Steer at this point. I don't know that you have the Reds knowledge yet, or whatever, Hyatt, to give an answer on that one.
Well, I mean, here's the big thing that I see going on at first base for the Reds is that every single prospect is going to have his adjustment period. And are the Reds going to be patient enough with Sal Stewart to let him get through that 150 plate appearance adjustment period to get acclimated to MLB pitching? There are very few Nick Kurtzes out there. There's many more Jack Cagliones, if you will, guys that need an adjustment period. Jackson Chourio had a terrible first 2 months as a rookie. Mike Trout, his first call-up was awful. If you look at his first 150 plate appearances, he was not good. It's a matter of patience. And if you guys really want Stewart to do that and just focus on hitting, I think he's got to be your DH for at least the first 2 months and then have Steer man first, because Steer's pretty good defensively at first. As you said, in a half season, he got a Gold Glove nomination. So that's where I would go.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think certainly when you look at Matt McClain, now he had a huge injury. He missed all of 2024. He's the inverse of that. He had the great 2023, 90 games or so. And then he ended up this past year just having a really tough year. All right. Scott Boldman says, piggybacking off of Kyle's question, since there is now an incentive for teams to produce a rookie of the year, wouldn't Sal get more playing time in the field versus DH? I'm not 100% sure what Scott's talking about. In fact, I think if a guy wins a rookie of the year, they're going to owe a guy more money now, right? Is there an incentive for a team to have a rookie of the year?
I mean, yeah, they get a bonus draft pick.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah, it's part of the CBA, and it's kind of like the Chris Bryant rule, if you will, where teams are incentivized to bring up their top prospects.
Yeah.
It's why I want to say, who was it? It wasn't Skeens was the one that kind of broke the mold. The Pirates did not get one, but Bobby Witt Jr. was the one where he was brought up at the beginning of the year. He was like top 2 or 3 in the rookie of the year, and they got a draft pick because of that.
That's good. Yeah, no more.
That being said,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. All
right. Well, I mean, and it's kind of like why the Brewers were not hesitant to bring up Chourio, but let's say Mizorowski, as an example, continued his hot June and July all the way through August and September, and he won Rookie of the Year. Well, because he missed the Super 2 deadline, if you will, they would not have gotten a draft pick out of that. And yet, if they get top 3 of the Rookie of the Year, they still get Super 2 status.
Okay.
So that's why
it doesn't seem like teams are playing service time games nearly as much. And Bryant was a huge one. Everybody knows that one. All right. We're going to go Joey Goditza next. I'm going to save Rex's for the last. Joey says, is this Tyler Stephenson's final season in our laundry? I like Joey. He's from Canada there, Hyatt. So we got to be careful what we say. He's a likable chap. I guess for me, my answer to that question is likely. I think Hyatt hit the nail on the head earlier with the way the Brewers are doing things. I think a guy like Tyler Stephenson, they're going to go to arbitration, it appears. So if they do that, it might bring some ill will. But B, my guess is Stevenson wants a long-term deal, and they just haven't been willing to, or they haven't come to agreement on one. So I would say there's probably a chance that he will not play beyond this season. Skylar, what do you think?
I think it depends on what Duno does in minor league, in spring training and minor leagues this year. Because if they really believe in him the way that I think they believe in him, I think they're going to favor Duno over Tyler Stephenson for, like Hyatt said, a 29-year-old who has been okay. Like Tyler Stephenson's been okay, hasn't been, amazing. And unfortunately, I think it might be the end of the Tyler Stephenson era here in Cincinnati.
Well, Alfredo Duno probably will start at High A Dayton. So even though he's had great seasons in Low A, it's going to be interesting to see where that shapes up. But it is. I mean, you get a catcher, and he's kind of a rough spot because he came up in 2020, which is a really messy year. He was out at the little off-site spot for most of the time, and then they'd bring him in when somebody had COVID and things like that. And he got his service time started that year, and really it snuck up on me a little bit that this is his last year of arbitration. Hyatt, it just goes down to that idea of you don't keep guys forever, do you?
I mean, again, is it really going to be worth paying a 30 and 31-year-old catcher? There's the thought of, well, he's in his prime. Well, prime years kind of like back up when it comes to catcher. They've got years upon years of crouching down, hurting their knees, breaking them down those ligaments, right? Getting those muscles. You probably have to be the best athlete on the field to play catcher. As for Duno, asking 20, he'll be 20 this year, asking him to make the jump from High A to the majors in a span of 12 months is a lot to ask. And especially in catcher, which is one of the toughest positions out there, you have to learn how to work a staff, call a game, understand your guys. There's a reason that catchers, when you get a catcher that debuts before the age of 24, it's a pretty big deal because that's a lot of education that they have to go through. And then there's a lot of education that they have to have. Now, if they bought out one of Stevenson's free agent years here, like they come together and come up with like a 2-year deal, and let's say Duno does skyrocket all the way up through. Is Stevenson, and let's not pretend Stevenson's a superstar either, or even an all-star. He's a solid guy. And while it's nice to have solid guys, it's better to have other teams overpay solid guys who are in their 30s.
Yeah, and I think to Skylar's point, I think the idea would be you don't want to give Stevenson 4 years if Duno might come up in 2 or 3. I don't.
That's true.
But I also don't know that Duno will stick at catcher. He's a little on the heavier side, and my goodness, his bat and his eye, he gets on base like crazy. That's going to be interesting to see if they move him to first base or something like that. So certainly, go ahead, Skylar.
On the catcher topic, that's probably why you gave Jose Trevino a 3-year deal to be the mentorship, and I'm sure that's part of the play, both mentorship for Tyler Stevenson, but also Duno. But I had to look it up. Do you know who the Reds comp pick was when Jonathan India won the Rookie of the Year?
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sal Stewart.
That's okay. There you go.
So you could get a pretty good guy with that comp pick.
Now I'm going to throw another tidbit out for you. My grandfather called me last night, and he's 90 years old, and he had just read something about Johnny Bench. And to your point, Hyatt, you're exactly right. Johnny Bench came up at age 19, and he played a full season at age 20, played 154 games, and had 5.0 B-WAR at age 20. So yes, you don't expect catchers to come along till they're in their early to more like 24, and certainly to marvel at what Duno's done so far. He's way down in Low A. So
yeah, I mean,
to put a perspective on Johnny Bench there.
as exciting as Duno is, guys, I mean, again, prospects are just people who aren't dead yet. He's scored 0 runs for the Reds. He's hit 0 bombs for the Reds. While it's nice to be excited, let's not put our hearts into there, okay? And keep the perspective. A 19-year-old who hasn't played in High A yet. All right.
That's right. All right. Final question comes from Rex Scott, but this is going to have a little more in-depth analysis. And he says, go around the infield and outfield and name the players you see at each position based on the current roster. Include platoons and DH like all of us. I hope we're not done dealing but let's assess based on where we are. So that's where we're going to take a look here. Yeah, I mean, we have to assume right now that the roster is what it is. Spring training starts in just a few weeks. So at shortstop, pencil in Ellie De La Cruz. Done deal. All right, we're good there. I'll go ahead and go next door. Write that in ink. Yeah. Third base, Ke'Bryan Hayes. The Reds didn't make the trade for him, and he's signed for a few more years still at a pretty good rate. They didn't make that trade to get better on defense, not to have him play. So Ke'Bryan Hayes, if he's healthy, is going to play. So right there, we got 2 non-platoon positions. All right. Catcher, you're always going to play more than one guy. Stevenson and Trevino, we already kind of detailed that a little bit. First base, we talked about a little bit. Stewart, Steer, and the other guy that, he's not dead yet, but since Christian Encarnacion Strand has not done anything at the big league level, but he profiles as a first baseman if he finds himself on this roster. We already answered that question a little bit, Skylar, but does CES? I was shocked. I went to a game with my family in late June last year, and CES was in the starting lineup. I looked back at the lineup just the other day, and I was like, I didn't remember him still being on the major league roster that late in the year. Does he come back up at all this year?
I don't think so. I think Terry Francona seems to have a bit of a tighter leash on guys that are big swing and miss guys, big chase and whiff guys. So, I mean, it's the reason why he doesn't play Benson like half the time. So, I don't think so. Unless he can cut down on the egregious strikeouts, I don't think so. I don't think Terry Francona lets him near this roster.
Yeah, he didn't do well in AAA last year either. All right, right field. From the comments at Reds Fest, which was just a few weeks ago, Terry Francona seems very high on making sure that Noelvi Marte right field experiment is not just that; it's a real deal. He played, back half the season there last year and did a good job. So pencil him in as your everyday right fielder, Noelvi Marte. All right.
One quick, can we go back to first base real quick?
Yeah,
sure.
You guys, one dark horse I see that you guys have as a non-roster invitee this year, signed into your system, Michael Toglio.
Yes,
had a pretty good 2024 with Colorado. By pretty good, I mean he hit 25 bombs, only hit 218, but he walks a lot. He gets on base as well. So if he can get a little more luck in his hits, especially in spring, he could be there to take a roster spot.
Yeah, and I think he could be definitely maybe a bench bat to start, but certainly those guys get starts too, unless they're named Will Benson. We'll talk about that in a minute. Center field. Now, here's the difference here. TJ Friedel was your main center fielder the last couple years, and they frankly didn't have a backup that was worthy of playing there. Will Benson had to play there some last year, but my goodness, they bring in Dane Myers, who I don't have a lot of hope for, but he did have 68 games in center field last year. So you have a true backup, capable center fielder. I still think it's TJ Friedel's job as long as he's healthy. Skylar.
I don't know about that. Yes, agreed with the TJ Friedel piece of it. I think TJ Friedel is one of those guys that has reverse splits, like lefty that crushes lefties. So I don't know how much of a like lefty righty matchup you're going to have with TJ Friedel. I think he'd be your everyday center fielder. I think Meyer and Blade kind of are that platoon in left field because they have true like lefty righty splits.
Yeah, left field. Then they got JJ Bleday from the A's. You might see Steer out there a little bit. Will Benson, technically speaking, right now is still on the roster. I made that joke because I think he went a full 25 games without even playing while he was on the big league roster this past year. So that was interesting. So I don't know, here or there. Here's your surprise for that position for left field. If things go well, Hector Rodriguez could end up playing about half the season and getting starts in left field. He's on the come, and we'll see what happens there. And then DH, I want to actually let me get your take on this, Hyatt, from a Brewers perspective. I have longed for the Reds to sign since the National League adopted the DH. Like sign somebody who actually plays this as a position. Sign a main guy to be there. The Reds treat it like the super utility position. They rotate guys, so certainly Stewart, Steer, and Benson are 3 guys. But how do the Brewers treat the DH spot?
Up until last year, I would say that the Brewers were just as frustrating with the DH spot as the Reds. Then they finally realized that Christian Yelich cannot stay healthy and play the outfield. So that kind of forced their hand into using a professional hitter as a DH. The problem is then you get William Contreras having to catch 135, 140 games.
Right.
The DH spot, when you have really, good, solid hitters, guys getting a professional hitter in that spot is great, but you're probably, Tyler Stevenson is one of your better bats out there on the team, which is, both interesting yet like still kind of like, ooh, like cringy, if you will.
Yes. Don't remind us.
But that being said, Tito's probably going to want to keep that bat in the lineup, even if it does mean you have 2 catchers in the lineup, especially if he gets on a hot streak. You get JJ Bleday on a hot streak, you're going to want him to stay in there. Dedicating that spot really limits your roster flexibility when it comes to day-to-day, and it's kind of like I saw it this last year with Christian Yelich. Yeah, it would be nice to have both Jake Bauers and Andrew Vaughn for the Brewers in the lineup, and they were both on hot streaks in July, August, September. But you got to have Yelich in that lineup.
Yeah.
So there are pluses and minuses to having a dedicated professional hitter there. The plus is, hey, I've got a dedicated professional hitter. The minus is there are certain guys I can't play because I have this dedicated professional hitter.
Yeah, I like flexibility in your lineup if you have enough guys to be flexible with, and then
that's true.
That goes back to you telling us that Tyler Stevenson's one of our best bats. So,
fair.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I see your point completely though, because and in fact, Jake Bauers actually signed a ball for my son down in Tampa Bay one year, so that's kind of cool.
Nice.
Yeah, so he actually played with the Reds for a little bit as well. So.
Hey, speaking of that, who never signs for anyone? Sal Stewart.
Really?
I had friends down in Daytona, who actually back before the minor leaguers were treated like indentured servants and only making like $400, $600 a month.
Yeah.
This guy, one of my friends down there would actually be like the house parents to certain Reds. He housed Ellie. He housed Cam Collier. He housed a whole bunch of really exciting guys, and he actually taught Ellie his signature, which is pretty incredible.
That's an incredible story.
He also said, Sal Stewart was the one guy that would not sign for anybody, which I found that's kind of put offish. But hey, let's see if he can hit.
I'll show you off the air here. I already showed our folks out there. My buddy, he actually goes down to Daytona games sometimes, and he got me a Duno autograph last year. So that was nice.
Nice.
Yeah, certainly. I guess overall, Skylar, that all that was absent another move or 2 or 3. Your thoughts on comparing it to what we dealt with last year when a lot of these names are the same?
It feels a lot like how the Reds finished last year. I'm very high on Bleday. I think he's going to absolutely rake for the Reds, just for all the things like the A's moving to Sacramento last year and all that A's drama and going back to playing in basically a minor league park with no fans. It had to feel like playing the COVID year all over again. So to get out of that A's drama, I think he's a great bounce back candidate. He put him at the ceiling of Miguel Andujar. with what he was for the Reds. So I feel like this is the same team we finished with last year. I think you're going to get better years out of Steer. You're going to get better years out of McLean. So, baby, man, you're going to get a full year of Noel V. Marte instead of like 2 or 3 months of Jamer Candelario before you cut him and bring Noel V. Marte up. So, if they can get off to a better start, I'll be encouraged. But I think you can never have too many good hitters.
I'm going to lean in on Ellie having a better, a healthier year. He was on track to doing better than his 2024 numbers when things started to go south. All right, let's get you out of here on this. Hi, I really appreciate you giving us time. You said you budgeted an hour. We're right at 55 minutes now and counting. Your thoughts on the finish in the NL Central this year? Where will the Brewers finish, and where do you think the Reds will finish?
I'll be honest, until the Brewers prove us all wrong, they're going to the Brewers have always been projected to be second or third, and yet every single year they win the division or right there for the division. And you're talking about a 97 win team last year. If they lose 10 wins, you're still talking about a team that's going to be competitive in the division. The Cubs have gotten worse offensively because you're replacing one of the best hitters in baseball in Tucker with a good hitter, but not Kyle Tucker. When you got who did they just sign? The third baseman.
They signed Bregman, right?
Bregman. Yeah, he's not offensively. He's not Kyle Tucker. Defensively, he's not going to contribute like Kyle Tucker did. They are worse offensively. They're pitching. They're pretty much running it back. Shota was smoke and mirrors his first year. Got pretty much demonstrated what he is. Matthew Boyd is smoke and mirrors. The only good pitcher in the rotation is Cade Horton. They seem to have figured out their bullpen by the end of the year, but bullpens are so fickle. I don't see the Cubs catching them. In fact, and as much as I like the Reds starting rotation, again, you've got a lot of swing and miss in that lineup. I mean, there to where it's a pretty big problem. So if I'm calling it, I'm calling Brewers first, Cubs second, Reds third, because both Pittsburgh and St. Louis are significantly worse than all three of those teams. And I think the Reds can compete for that last wild card spot.
Well, certainly, and the big thing the Reds need to learn how to do is win head-to-head against the Brewers. They really didn't have a problem with most of the rest of the division last year, but head-to-head against the Brewers is definitely an issue. All right. Hey, Hyatt, tell folks how they can find your podcast and how often do you guys record?
Absolutely. We are weekly. You can hear us. You can find us on, of course, Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever podcatcher you guys have. It is the View from Bernie Chalet podcast. We went pretty in depth in the Reese McGuire signing this week, which is always fun and a very, very punny review, if you will, or I should say euphemistic review, if you know the history of Reese McGuire and his parking lot antics.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, and we have a lot of fun. It's View from Bernie Chalet podcast. It is, and we try to make it as entertaining as possible. You can find us on the socials. We, broadcast on Facebook. We've kind of shifted over to Blue Sky because of just the climate on Twitter and all the AI bots that are just filling up everybody's feed. So at least with Blue Sky, we know that there's real people behind the accounts. So you can find us on Blue Sky. You can find me on Blue Sky. I am Enrico Palazzo on Blue Sky. And yeah, it's just an absolute, we have fun with it. And any ears that we can get, would absolutely love to have them.
Awesome. Thanks for taking the time, Hyatt. Maybe let's see by the end of the year where both teams are. Perhaps we'll want to get back together and see where things ended up. Skylar, thanks for joining me again this week.
Always a pleasure.
All right, folks, tell your friends, join our Patreon group at patreon.com/riverfrontcincy. And here's to this weather warming up a little bit, and we can talk some spring training shortly. Thank you for tuning in.
Go Reds.